We're going to talk about these top 4 Canva mistakes that I see over and over with beginners with design and people new to Canva. So number 1, no hierarchy in the designs, bad font choices, not adjusting design for various media, and poor color choices. Mistake number 1, no hierarchy. So hierarchy, it's really important to have a design that is clear and easy to read. That is of top importance in design. Hierarchy tells the viewers which elements to look at, in what order to look at them, and what is most important to focus on. So I want you to read this graphic right here. What do you read first, second, third? It's likely that whatever the largest text is, that's what you read first, and that is positioned strategically. It's right at the top, and that is usually what's read first in the design, the top left element. So let's look at some ways to create visual hierarchy in design. So size. You want to emphasize the most important element by making it the largest. And that's often by making your font size, your headline bigger, your main photo or visual element larger, and other pieces a little bit smaller. Color and contrast. You want to utilize colored blocks, colored text, and colored backgrounds to highlight key information. And positioning. Place crucial information at the top left or center for easy readability. Let's look at some examples of each of these. Size. You create hierarchy by adjusting the size of an element. This one's a little obvious. It's a diver and a whale in the water. Obviously, the whale is much larger than the diver, but we're giving the visual hierarchy and importance to that whale by making it larger and making the diver smaller. Font size. You can create visual hierarchy through size of fonts and grouping related elements together. On the left, we have a flyer that just has lots of text that's the exact same size, and there's really not much hierarchy here. But on the right, the designer has grouped the information, added larger headlines for each section, and made the supporting information smaller. The graphic has also been enlarged quite a bit. So you automatically, when you first look at it, you see this graphic, you see the headline, and you clearly see the groups of information down the page. Color and contrast. To create hierarchy with color, you want to change the color and contrast to highlight key information. So contrast is when 2 or more elements look dramatically different from one another. So the first design, there is something different about one of the graphics, but you can't really see it because everything's the same color. But in the second design, that one different graphic is highlighted in a different color, and everything else is receding to the background with color and contrast. And again, grouping related elements together is just a good design practice. So you want to place critical text at the top left or center for easy readability. And just think about logical reading flow. The headline really should be at the top of your design because in the Western culture, we read left to right, top to bottom. Mistake number 2, bad font choices. Typography is one of the foundations of good design, and we want to use it as a tool to communicate the actual meaning of words that we're saying on our designs. Here we have some simple type combinations. So Stephen Stables, it needs to convey a business that is strong, rugged, and friendly. Which of these best conveys those words from a typography and font standpoint? I would say the right conveys those words, strong, rugged, and friendly, more than the left. The left feels a little bit more feminine. It's using a serif font, and I'll teach you more about that in a minute. It just doesn't give those feelings off of strong, rugged, and friendly nearly as much as the font on the right. Again, you're communicating with the font choices that you make. What are some font choices that you'll typically see in Canva? Serif fonts, sans serif fonts, slab serif font, and cursive and script. They each have a different personality. You may also mix and match some of these depending on where you're communicating. But I want you to take a look at this and think, what fonts am I currently using? And are they relaying the communication and the messaging that I want? You want to limit the use of cursive and capitals in large blocks of text or paragraphs. They are really hard to read. So cursive and capitals should only be used for short headlines. You want to choose very readable fonts. Remember, somebody is probably looking at graphics that you create for a split second. If they cannot read it, they are going to move on. The script font on the left, while it is a beautiful font, I can't read what those words say exactly. So that would not be a good font choice. The one on the right is very easy to read. That's considered a sans serif font. You want to choose fonts that go well together. The three fonts on the left, they're all very unique. They have similar weight and they are kind of competing against one another. They don't visually go together well. But the one on the right, you can clearly see the visual hierarchy. The top font would be your headline. The middle font would be great for body copy and subheads. And then the bottom font could be used as an alternate headline. Mistake number 3, not adjusting your design for various media. So in today's world, people are viewing your message in so many places. They're looking at it maybe in a poster, postcard. They're looking at it on a computer, a tablet, a smartphone. And just think about the size of all of those things. The size is quite different. If you design a poster, for instance, for an event, that same graphic is likely not going to work very well on a tiny smartphone. You will probably have to redesign that graphic for maximum readability. And let me show you some examples of how to do that. On the left, we have a postcard design. This was a printed postcard. The designer redesigned this graphic to work in this email that you see on the right. And it has the branding and the overall feeling of the event. All the detail information has been pulled out of the graphic, and instead it's placed in the text area of this email. Therefore, that graphic is very readable at small sizes, especially people that are looking at an email on their phone. And here's an example of a social media graphic. This is a template that I pulled directly from Canva that was meant for an Instagram post. The small text on here, it's very hard to read. So I redesigned it on the right. I pulled out lots of information. All the body copy has been taken out. I've enlarged the important elements, so the date, the time, location, where to register, and the price of this event. This is just a lot more readable for the medium that it's actually intended for. So I want you to really, really think about prioritizing readability with your designs. Simplify your content depending on where you want people to view your messaging. You can put any extra information or any detailed information in the body of the email or the caption of a social media post. Before you put a design of any kind out in the world, I want you to test it and look at that design at 100% size to make sure someone can read it. So ways to simplify content is to write your copy before you ever get into Canva. So that could mean you write down all the event details that you think you might need in your design. So that might be name of the event, place, location, maybe some details about the event. Write it all down. And then I want you to go back through your content and simplify it. Remove unnecessary information and ask yourself, what does my audience actually need to know to attend my event, to understand what it is? And my bonus tip here is really use that principle of hierarchy that we learned a minute ago and make the most important things stand out the most. And a way that you can test your designs. So if you have a cell phone handy right now, I want you to hold that cell phone right up next to the computer or the screen that you're looking at this presentation. I'm going to show you how to test your mobile design graphics or your social media graphics. So hold that phone next to the computer. And if you were to have Canva open, you could resize your Canva graphic to fit the size of the device that you're holding. So your phone, you can resize your graphic to fit the phone. And you really want to understand, can someone read that graphic at this small size that's on my screen? If they can't read it, you probably need to work on your design or work on simplifying it. And you can see an example of this, that top design, not readable at all at this phone size. The bottom one, it's mostly readable. Some of this information might need to be enlarged a little bit more to make it readable. And you can use this trick with anything. You could hold up a piece of paper, an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper next to your computer, resize your graphic in Canva, and make sure that it's readable at that 100% size. Mistake number 4, poor color choices. Color can assist greatly with readability of your message. So choosing a color that makes your message stand out is absolutely critical. All right, let's look at some examples of poor color choices in design and how we can fix them. You want to adjust your text color to enhance the contrast with the background. So in this example on the right, we have used light text on a dark background. That red text on the left is vibrating against the background. You want something that's very high contrast and easy to read. Try white or black text on a photograph to have maximum color contrast. Placement. You want to think about where you're putting the text on a graphic. So avoid placing text over a busy background. The one on the left, the text is in a really weird place that has lots of lights and darks. The one on the right, the text is in a really kind of clear, simple, what I call white space in the design. Font choice, so the one on the left is too light to be readable on this varied background. So choose thicker weight fonts if you're putting text on top of a photo. So you can enhance text visibility by adding a subtle drop shadow. That's the one on the left. You want to avoid excessive drop shadows. You really shouldn't be able to see that there's a drop shadow at all. This is very subtle on the left, and that's how you should keep it. And I love the route on the right, which I call color blocking. So this is simply taking a colored shape and putting it behind your text. So it's nice if this is a brand color or some kind of color that relates to your photograph. For instance, this red, I actually sampled that red from the strawberries in this photo. So it really works well with the photograph. And remember to use high contrast text on top of the color block that you're using. And one more color tip and a way to make your text stand out. You can also put a colored shape between your text and a photograph. And then you add transparency to that shape. On the example on the right, I actually sampled the color block from that green in the background. So there's a green block between the photo and the text, and it just enhances the design because that green is already in the photo. Click the link in the description below for a free one-page brand guide template in Canva. Follow Crye Studio for more graphic design and Canva tutorials. Thanks so much.